Cool. So what's on your mind, man? What how do you envision this going? Like, let me hear it from you, and then I'll kind of give you how I feel like this thing's going to work. I'm actually 100 shows in, so this ain't new to me.
Yeah.
And people, we've got almost 400 subscribers on the channel. That's nothing in the landscape of the internet. But my goal with us is to become somebody on the internet, to try to gain a following and have a voice in the landscape that I know that I've got to have a voice to achieve the goals I have. The goals I have, obviously, are to sell more homes, to impact people's lives, to attract agents that want to do the same things I'm doing in this business, that want to make this their livelihood, that want this life, that want the real estate life, and then just have influence over my community. That's the goals I have with this thing, is to become somebody that people turn to for thoughts and ideas and strategies around living a good life here in the New River Valley. So that's my goal.
Yeah, I think I want it to be a combination of two things. So I think really creating a space and an environment to show what this community is like, which we've talked about that to a certain extent, and then also, so like you said, I've had people say I should write op-eds because I seem to have like a interesting perspective on things. So like, I think creating an environment to be able to just discuss whatever's on our mind, like you said, like obviously we'll have some particular topics that are natural to us and fall into things, and then discussing current events or anything of the such. It's whatever. How would I put this? Like, it's a combination of flow and intent in some sense, right? So like, what I mean by that is being able to create the environment to sit and just flow, but at the same time have this, like you said, like what do we want this to become? Have that vision there for this environment for you and me, and then also what kind of environment we're going to bring our guests into, and then from there just build the environment so that when we sit down, whatever is on our mind, we just start talking. That's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah.
And like I said, just kind of bringing something special about this area, and I love the idea you have about like really demonstrating, hey, you can make it in a small town, and then we're doing it. Like we talked about that a little bit. I think that's a really powerful message to send to people, because like you said, everybody thinks they have to be from New York. Or I also found out Chester Bennington's from Phoenix, Arizona. I thought he was from a smaller town, but apparently he's from Phoenix. So I can't even rely on him as a small town guy. I gotta, you know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, so a question I would ask you is kind of like, what is kind of your thoughts and in terms of like just who you are and what you bring to the table, and like what would I mean, I think that kind of gets the question across in some sense.
All right, so repeat the question.
What do you think, say, in your personality, in your professional life, in your experiences, in your struggles, in your current day-to-day activities, like I guess like let everybody know in some sense, like, hey, what do you bring to the table? Like what, why should they listen to us in that sense? I
mean, I've got a ton of experience in the career path that I'm on. Yeah. I've helped a lot of people through a lot of difficult things in their life. There's a lot of different roles I play as someone's real estate agent. It's not just their salesperson. I'm a counselor. I'm somebody that has a lot of emotional control to get through tough spots. So that goes into any endeavor in life because of the belief that I have in myself and the control I have over my emotions. I can then help dissect the problems and get you to a logical result.
Yeah, conclusion.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you say like counseling, are you thinking more like personal? Are you thinking like financial? Are you thinking
no, just life. Just the struggles of life. And now I have a lot of life experience and overcoming personal struggles of my own. You know, I've been through a lot of certain situations that a lot of people deal with. I've gotten through them handily. And I still, you know, a lot of people like to sit down and cry about their life and blame others and things like that. I take full control. I take full power over my life, and I'm responsible for it all. Yeah. I celebrate all the victories and I celebrate all the defeats. It's all my fault, and it's all on me. Yeah. So I don't you know, I don't like to allow people too many excuses. Yeah. I like to encourage people and help them through their struggles. And I understand, you know, the great perspective I have on life is that it didn't kill me. Yeah. You know, like that's, you know, like if it didn't kill me, then I can continue to move forward. Yeah. You know, like I'm a winner because I was birthed. You know, like I appreciate life. Yeah. I know everything's not that really big of a deal in the grand scheme of things, because if it didn't kill you, it's really not that big a deal. So yeah, I mean, I just bring perspective. I'm an encourager. I'm you know, I'm somebody that you can come to if you're down, and I can lift you back up. That's what I'm bringing. I'm bringing a lot of positive energy. Yeah. And I'm bringing encouragement, and I'm bringing I'm pushing you in the corner to believe in yourself. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, in the terms of like, I guess our relationship, I could see that. But I think it's also, I think you said something really cool, which is, you know, you're effectively taking the world on your shoulders, saying everything's my responsibility. You know, every piece of my life, you know, I'm not taking any excuses. And I've taken a similar approach. And I've had a lot of people who are a lot smarter than me and have a lot more wisdom because they've lived life longer than me. Suggest something similar. You know, there's some people I follow online, such as Jordan Peterson or Alan Watts, and there's this idea out there that, you know, to pick up the world and put it on your shoulders, it's a really powerful thing to be able to grow as a human being. So the fact that you say that, I relate to that heavily, you know, and we both probably will relate to the struggles of life. I imagine they're a little bit different. Mine's very heavily in the mental health realm and physical health, like just health, I guess, in general. And I actually don't know too much about your personal struggles. I know we've gone back far, but, you know, we had a different relationship go back 10 years, and then we've kind of reintroduced and reinvigorated the personal relationship and also this business relationship. So like, it might be interesting to unpack that a little bit, I think, and kind of, I'd be interested in hearing like what have you been through, you know? Yeah. Like to the extent that you're willing to share and just have a conversation about.
You know, just every day, just trying to grow a business, dealing with people, the dynamics of trying to be super ambitious and the judgment and ridicule and, you know, just people wanting to try to tear you down. Yeah. I've been through the whole tear you down. I've been through the love and lost. You know, I've been through a lot of the you know, emotional things that, you know, come with failed relationships. Yeah. You know, and you know, I've had a past with you know, a father that was absent. You know, luckily, you know, my mother found a great guy that pretty much raised me, that I consider my dad. Yeah. You know, my father, you know, great guy in his heart, but he just couldn't control his urges and his needs for, you know, and dependency on alcohol and drugs, and you know, and what that did to my childhood, and you know, kind of set me up to either, you know, be the guy that could blame everything on everybody, or take total responsibility for myself. Yeah. And I decided to go this way, to take full responsibility, to say that this is just life, and that was the cards that I was dealt, and I'm going to play them the best that I can, instead of just folding up.
I have a feeling we're going to make a lot of
poker analogies. Yeah, of course.
For everybody who's out there, we both have played poker. I've played poker for 15 years. And how long have you been playing?
Yeah, same time.
About 15 years. Yeah. So get used to some poker.
03-ish.
03. So, okay, well, that's a little bit longer. That's about 20 years.
But I took a 10-year break.
Oh, that's true, too, yeah. So everybody out there, get used to some poker analogies. We're we're probably going to make them pretty often. There's a lot of analogies with poker and life. It's pretty fascinating when you dive into it.
Yeah.
I can relate to I'm in the exact same boat, like, surprisingly. My biological father left when I was like under a year old, and then my stepfather came in and adopted us when we were 2. So I relate to that too. And then my stepfather had his own issues too. And then try to reconcile with my biological father. Didn't go great. Is what it is. You know, there were some things that played a part in it, but I can relate to that too. You know, for sure.
I mean, I was raised in a ton of love. I've got women in my life, my grandmother, my aunt, my mother, tremendous women. You know, women that it's going to be super hard for me to replicate as I'm looking for a partner. You know, and you know, those women are a rare find these days. You know, these type of women. So, congratulations on, you know, and then I want to talk about 2023 too, because you know that's going to be the trending topic. Is how was your 2023?
Yeah,
you know,
my 2023. That's a good place, actually. Yeah. My 2023. Let's think.
Got to be the best year of your life, right?
Yeah, it really has been.
Yeah.
It has the best week of my life. For those out there who don't know me, me and my wife got married in Maine in August, and we spent a week up there, and it's the best week of my life, best day of my life, and so that's a nice little highlight of 2023. And there's a bunch of highlights, but yeah, it's in one sense it feels like it's flown by, but in another sense, a lot of the stuff that we've, you know, me and Kellyn have particularly talked about, it's like, wow, that was, you know, it was, yeah. I mean, to me, 2023 was a year of just fruition for me. It was a lot of things that have been in the woodworks for a while, and ironically, here we are closing out 2023 with more fruition with this podcast and releasing my album on the 1st and everything else. So, yeah, so that was my 2023. How was yours?
Man, 2023 for me was
probably
probably the worst year of my life.
Oh man,
it was the worst year of my life. But you know, with all the things that left or got tore down or, you know, dissolved in my life, there's some great thing. You know, I'm the guy that's always going to find the silver lining.
Yeah.
You know, I'm always going to be, you know, looking for that positive about it. And honestly, poker has really rejuvenated me, and it's really kind of saved me. Because some of the obviously, you know, our relationship, the only reason we connected again was that I decided to get back into that. You know, leaving the chase of, you know, trying to find somebody to put in my life, and you know, getting away from the alcohol and, you know, all the stuff that was destructive in my life. Not really destructive in a sense of like, you know, I became dependent on alcohol. Alcohol was just robbing me of my money, you know, and it was just like a cycle that wasn't, you know, like, you know, if I'm a money guy, if I'm a business guy and I'm looking at the investment that I made, it didn't return. Yeah, exactly. Like it was a total sando. Yeah. Shout out to Vegas Matt. You know, I've been watching a lot of like gambling content. So like I'm gonna be like heavy in like gambling terms. Yeah. But dude, I love that guy. Side note, I love Vegas Matt. Have you heard of him?
I have not.
Okay, well we're gonna get you on him. Yeah. But anyway, like realistically, if it wasn't for poker, you know, I've had a couple transactions now through poker. I'm getting back into relationships that matter, that can actually benefit my life. I'll never spend in a month at the poker game what I was spending in a month at the bar. So I could lose. I mean, I was spending $1,500, $2,000 a month, and I'll never lose $2,000 in a month in this circle. In this circle,
probably not.
Sorry, hey, everybody in the New River Valley. I'm not trying to be cocky, but I'll never lose $2,000 in a month in the poker game. You know, like I'm just never going to do it. Like I'll just put my buy-in. If I lose, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
You know?
I didn't have the same approach. I was deep stacked all the time. But so when you were talking about like alcohol and relationships, do you think it was something particular to you, or was it kind of more the generic kind of, for lack of a better word, toxicity of it?
I mean,
You obviously point out like the financials.
So look, I had it in my mind that I needed to be social. I needed to put myself out there. I needed to do something to attract the type of mate that I was looking for. And they always say you're never gonna find love at the bar, but how many people connect at that in that spot? A bunch of people connect in those spots. So I'm not a subscriber to you're never gonna find a good girl in that arena. I'm never gonna subscribe to that, but it's not worked for me. So like I got to change it up. I actually I signed up to work the ticket thing at Virginia Tech sporting events just to kind of be like I need to be around people, man. I want to be around large groups of people. I like people.
Yeah.
And I want to interact and I want to connect with people in an organic way.
Yeah.
And I don't see a lot of those opportunities around here other than like those sporting events, the bars, trying to find ways to like create those things. Like, we're talking about, putting on productions, possibly me, entering the stand-up comedian thing,
I definitely want to come.
So like, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm probably not the next Dave Chappelle. I'm more likely the next Joe Rogan, even though Joe Rogan's a stand-up comedian too. So I'm trying to kind of like rip off and duplicate their path. If I'm gonna be this, then I've got a lot of different ways of creating attention. I've got a lot of different ways of creating revenue streams. All these people, Theo Vaughn, Joe Rogan, like all these people that are sitting down and talking and having these conversations, we're just replicating that.
I think there's maybe, for me, there's two things I think I could bring up. How I ended up with my wife, which would be an interesting story. And then also, seems to be a connection between podcasters and comedy.
Yeah.
Comedy and then podcasters and intellectuals. Like Andrew Huberman or Lex Friedman and the types of those. And then, of course, you got like Theo Vaughn, Tim Dillon, Joe Rogan. I think there's a few more in there. And then you got stuff like, I forgot what it's called. I won't even bring it up if I can't remember the name. But I wonder if there's something to the fun of it. I think the reason why comedy is the comedians are very heavy in the podcasting game is because they're entertaining. They're just there to have a good time.
Well, I think it's a funnel. I think it's a funnel for them to get attention and then link to shows that can help them sell tickets to the show.
Yeah. I'm just thinking though, like in terms of like why they're successful. I think
they're just successful because they're good. Yeah. I mean, they put out enough content, they've got enough attention, and they're funny. Like they've got some talent.
Well, do you think it's more a product of their promo, or do you think it's more of a product of just being a comedian in general? Because I think it would be a comedian in general.
I mean, they got to say something people gravitate toward. Yeah. I mean, they got to have something. They got to have material that people enjoy. For them to keep consuming it. Or them to get the algorithm juice that they need to get to that virality that they need to get people to like and follow and whatever they do.
Yeah.
But
it seems to be like a combination of two things. Like just from the correlation that I see, it seems to be value. What would you call it? Like the value of entertainment from just having fun, because that's where Joe Rogan started. He said it was just him and a bunch of friends just goofing off.
Yeah.
And then next thing he knows, he realizes he could get some interesting people on, and once then it just took off. But as far as like also the intellectual side, I feel like, so the two things I feel like people value in a podcast are entertainment, like just having a good time, people like to listen, and then the value of wisdom. And I feel like the two things there, I think we're going to have some interesting conversations that will bring both of those. And like, for example, this relationship thing, I mean, just to give some perspective on the way I approached it, and I ended up with the, be all mushy and say the woman of my dreams, So I had been through some rough relationships. Almost every relationship I had been in, I had been kind of taken advantage of in one way or another. And I got out of a really tough relationship, me and this ex, and I ended up basically homeless. I had to stay with my parents for a year and a half and had very little money, barely could do anything. And I kind of set my mind to something. I was like, I know what I want now. You know, after being through all these relationships that have failed me, I know what I'm looking for. And I took to a very brute force, high quantity strategy. So I was online dating on every app you can imagine, and I was putting it out there what I wanted, and it was very mushy. It was like, you know, I think it was something like I'm looking for somebody to grow as individuals but love each other along the way, kind of thing. And I was dating 2 or 3 times a week. I was having first dates constantly, and I would kind of figure out real quick. I mean, we've talked a little bit about how kind of sensitive I am to people and you know, what they bring, not what they bring to the table, but like who they are in some sense. I learned about it really quick, and
you got to know the red flags really quickly.
Yeah, I did, and I knew what I wanted. You know, I had been through hell and back multiple times with relationships I didn't want, and then you know, funny enough, the thing that got me to catch my wife's attention was a photo of me as a kid. It was me and a kid with my 2 sisters, and she just texted me and was like, hey, this is the most awesome thing ever, and then started a conversation, and here we are. But I took an approach that was, I think, it was very strategic on my part. You know, it was like, if I keep putting myself out there, you know, the more I could do it, kind of like in the same way I approach my music. You know, the more I could put myself in that seat, the more likely I am to get what I'm looking for.
Of course.
You know what I mean? And it sounds like you're doing something similar. It's just the environment's different.
Well, I mean, you know, trying to meet you know, you're doing all the same things. We're all doing the same stuff, trying to connect with people.
Yeah, of course.
You know, that's probably a more healthy environment than, you know, sitting at the bar, or especially around this town. You know, this is, you know, you go down to a certain area, it's mainly college kids. Mm-hmm. So it's really hard.
We grow up in college towns. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's, you know, you got to put yourself in the spot where the right thing hits you. You know, you got to be in the right venue. You know, it's kind of like surfing. You know, I kind of use the surfing analogy. You know, you got to just be at the right place at the right time to catch, you know, let that wave crash over you type thing. So
yeah, that's a good point.
So that's, you know, that's why I'm putting myself in a little bit different venues with a little bit more volume of people, just to be out there, you know, and what that might do for business relationships, friendships, partnerships, you know, love.
And things you can't even expect.
Exactly. So. You know, going to a certain place for dinner versus, you know, at 6:30 p.m. is probably going to find a better spot for me than at 10:30 p.m.
at the bar.
At the
half drunk.
Yeah, same venue.
Yeah.
Same venue. Yeah, different time point, different location. You know, so a totally different mindset of people too.
Yeah. I think that was something I was thinking about when you were talking about this, is like, you just put yourself in a different environment, you're going to find different people. So like a bar setting, I think, is going to attract people who A, like to drink, B, enjoy being around people. And like, for example, I enjoy being around people, but it's more in an extent like a one-on-one kind of thing. And in the sense of that, you know, I wanted somebody that connected with me like that. So finding me in an environment where I could find that. You know, and that was what I was looking for, you know, and to me, it's really important to know what you're looking for, and to, you know, there's a few people that have said this, which is interesting because they all come from different backgrounds, which is basically, Jordan Peterson puts it, you can have what you want. All you got to do is be able to say it or write it down.
Yeah.
And it's like, I really think there's a lot of value and truth to that if you can think out the details, like the real details, kind of like, for example, you know, the stereotypical one is like, I want to be a millionaire, right? And it's like, well, what does that mean? You know, so don't just throw the vague notion of I want to be a millionaire, but think like, okay, what are the details of being a millionaire? You know, for example, what does it mean to have $1 million? You know, that means you're $1 million indebted, or the society's indebted to you for $1 million. That means you have to do $1 million worth of work.
Yeah.
You know, it's not as clear as just having the money. It's the work that goes into it.
And who do you have to become to get that?
Yeah,
and then, who do you how ruthless, and you know who do you have to step on, and like or how many people is it going to take for you to get to that point?
Yeah, and who's that going to make you?
Yeah,
too.
That's what I'm saying. Who do you have to become?
Yeah,
who do you have to become to do that? Do you want to be that person?
Yeah, and then also like, all of a sudden you're thinking, well, $1 million. Well, all of a sudden that comes with a lot of responsibility.
Even though $1 million, we're not even talking about $1 million anymore. It's 10.
No, now it's like
10 plus.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like 5 or 10 million is kind of the new $1 million.
Yeah.
The 7 figures just doesn't quite do it justice anymore. It's kind of scary, but yeah, I think there's something to that where setting your mind on something to the extent that you think of the details. Like what would it be like to have to hire an accountant? If you can think out that detail and still say, I want it, then I feel like you're more likely to get it, in the sense of all those little intricate details. Say like you want to lose weight, right? That's a goal a lot of people, and here we are at New Year's. A lot.
Everybody wants to drop in 15.
Everybody wants to drop 15. So here's some thoughts on that. Think about the details of the lifestyle you would have to do it. And then my advice to anybody out there who's trying to live that kind of lifestyle is to find a lifestyle that you fall in love with. I've done the fitness thing. Going back 5 years ago, I had to have 3 surgeries in 11 days. I have Crohn's disease, for anybody out there who doesn't know me. And I had this difficulty with it, and it caused me to go back and forth into the hospital for 11 days. And I got out, and currently I weigh about 175. I weighed 111 pounds.
Wow.
When I got out. And over the next year, I put on 40 pounds of muscle. Kind of got obsessed with it. I was working out 3 or 4 times a week. Basically, my lifestyle outside of just the daily routine was fitness everything. It was how I'm eating, when I'm taking my supplements, how I'm recovering. It was an obsession for a while, and that was kind of lifestyle I wanted at the time, and the details that went into it, and I fell in love with it. And I feel like what a lot of people do with their New Year's resolutions that kind of don't pan out positively is twofold. I think it's the vagueness, right? So they go in and say, I want to lose 15 pounds. And to me, it's like, well, what does that entail? And can you fall in love with that? And then also, too, the classic, which is like your New Year's resolution, once you achieve it, it goes back. And I think that's because people will just kind of brute force a strategic kind of approach, and they don't find something that they just genuinely love, because you can only like, how would I put this? Like, you can only consciously run uphill for so long before your mind kind of settles back in and you're coasting back downhill.
Well, everybody wants to get hyped up on motivation when they lack discipline. It's a discipline thing. You can't achieve anything unless you are hardcore disciplined to the action. You set the plan, and then you execute the plan, and then you get the results. You do the thing, you have the results.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I think from if it's a fair point, and you can tell me if it's not, from your perspective, I think you have fallen in love with that.
I'm as disciplined as they come.
Yeah, and you love it.
And from 2013 until 2021, which dude, you don't even know how close I was to my dream life. The lady that walked into my life was everything I'd ever pictured, which is the Barbie doll I'd always dreamed of. And I had just got off my first $100,000 month. I had just crushed. I mean, I'd made a couple $1 million at that point. I had the staff. I had this machine just finely tuned, brother, and it just all came raveling apart when that relationship didn't work out.
So you think it was that's interesting. So you think it was heavily tied to the relationship in some
Well,
sense.
I mean, I took focus away. Yeah. I took I flew to Myrtle Beach. I got on a plane to go to Myrtle Beach. I mean, that's just stupid. Like, that's a drive time.
Were you chasing her? Or
no, we just was like, all right, we got money. Let's go to Myrtle Beach.
I see what you're saying.
And let's just go. Yeah. And I get, and I was to the point where I was like, it just costs too much to drive because of the time. It's a 10-hour round trip drive versus a 2-hour, 4-hour round trip flight. Yeah. And I was like, well, we could be there enjoying more time, because time was more important to me than the money.
Yeah.
So so I was just wasteful, and I was unfocused. In my purpose is over here, and I totally made 100% of my life purpose our relationship. You know, and that, you know, a strong man had, you know, the king never comes off of his kingdom just for the queen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's a balance to it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's got to be over here handling the queen when she needs it, but the queen needs to know that the king needs to go over here and rule the kingdom.
I would say that's twofold. I think that goes both ways too. I mean, that's why, like, in my mind, when I was writing out what I wanted, I was saying grow as individuals. You know, there's parts of my life that are going to just be my life. I mean, to the extent that this podcast, you know, my lovely wife is helping us produce it so that I could be on this side of the camera.
Yeah.
This is my thing. You know, she's helping, but this is part of my life.
Yeah.
You know, in the same way, my wife goes to choir every Tuesday, and she puts on, is it 4 shows a year? So she puts on 4 shows a year. At the Salem Presbyterian Choral Society.
Yeah.
And that's her thing. You know, we've discussed, like, in small detail, because I sing too. She's like, well, you could come join if you want, but it's kind of like, it's your thing, you know? And to the extent that I help, I go to her concerts. I love it. So it's a really cool experience.
You're an encourager, you're a supporter.
Yeah.
You know, like you're gonna make sure that, you know, what she wants is what she gets, and that's the man's role. You know, go out, hunt, and bring it back. You know, that's what we do. So
that's the what would you say, the gender role, which is something for sure that you know,
that's not just a gender role. That's our primal from, you know, all of human history.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it doesn't lessen the actuality by the term I'm using, but I agree with you. It's something that I would actually think today's society, you know, this might get political, but today's society has lost a little bit, is the value in some of the roles that we have.
Sure.
Right, that have really gotten us. I mean, look at the world we're in today compared to 100 years ago, and even 1,000 years ago, and the things that we had to sort out as human beings to be able to fairly distribute responsibility and what made sense. And we've gotten to a point where I think we're so everything is so, there's a luxury in the easiness of life. I mean, there's still struggles, right? But we're able to, for example, wake up, drive an hour to get to Blacksburg, go to 2 different restaurants to get food, and then you know, that we pay pretty reasonable prices for, and then to come in here and have the technology and the reach to have a conversation. It's like, man, yeah, I completely understand why we've lost sight of some of the things that got us here, especially for the people, you know, even my age. I'm only 31, and you know, there's people in their early 20s that just never knew any different. You know, they woke up, or, you know, 13 years old, had a smartphone in their hand. You know, so as far as they're concerned, that's just life, but it wasn't always that way. And I think a lot of people kind of lose that perspective, that it's like, you know, things could be a whole lot worse. You know, I think there's a lot of naivety to our culture with how bad things can get, and then how they get there too.
Well, I mean, you know, you mentioned Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
And, you know, these people that are talking about how men need to be strong and they need to be mentally capable, and they need to be, you know, they need to be successful. They need to go and achieve things to provide value, because these soft men ruin total societies. Soft men are the worst thing going right now. I mean, really, you got to have strong men in your culture, or your culture crumbles.
Yeah.
You know, that's a fact. You know,
it is.
So you need warriors in the gardens instead of just gardeners in the war.
Yeah.
You know, so we don't want no gardeners in the war.
Something that I think to add to this, I think soft men are actually have a lot of potential to do harm. Like, so to me, soft men doesn't mean like a house cat, right? Yeah. I think soft men are people who have skills that are kind of hidden, that they use with or without their own knowledge of that they're doing it, to extract expediency from environments for their own benefit. and at the cost of others. Usually, it's kind of gross when you think about it.
I mean, the weak men are the ones killing people, mass shooters. You know, all these people, all these men that are going out and causing harm to people are the men that can't figure life out. You know?
And I would say even on a smaller scale, and I think this is, funny enough, I would say this is more detrimental in society than even, and this might be a hot take, but mass shootings obviously are a massive tragedy, and that goes without saying. Yeah. But I think there is another problem in society that isn't being talked about, which is the larger quantity, lesser intensity, daily life things. So like a mass shooting, obviously the lives that are lost, I can't say that enough.
Yeah.
But the lives that are lost, the value that's lost, and not just the lives that are lost, but the quality of life that is lost due to people being weasels, you know? And it goes bad both ways. It doesn't, you know, as far as I can tell, and I mean, maybe the reason I recognize this to a certain extent is I used to be one of those guys. You know, I used to be somebody for reasons outside of my control. You know, I grew up without a strong male figure in my life. My stepfather, who was a good stepfather through my childhood, was diagnosed with dementia when I was 13. So by the time it was really time to teach me some lessons about being a man,
and discipline you,
and discipline me, and make sure I got my being the male role model, I was missing it.
Yeah, so he wasn't capable.
No, and not to his fault, obviously.
Right, of course.
So I grew up being that soft, weak core. You know, I lacked the core of who I was from being a man.
To have a moral stand and being disciplined in your life.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening to me was I ended up being a weasel. And you know, and for anybody out there who maybe has the suspicion or the inkling in their mind that they may be too, maybe this is an inspiration, because it doesn't always have to be that way. All it takes is the mindset that you talked about earlier, which is I am no excuses. Yeah. I'm taking responsibility. It's on me.
Wins on me, losses on me.
Yeah.
Nobody's at fault but me.
The direction of my ship is steered by me. I'm at the wheel.
Yeah.
Right. And my mindset is going to drive me where I am. Yeah, it might take some time. You know, there's the randomness of life. I mean, this is another poker analogy. You know, if you grind and you continue to grind with the right mindset, you start to make money.
Bro, everybody overestimates what they're going to do in a year, and everybody underestimates what they'll do in 5. So you're always going to be too ambitious short term, and you're always going to be little short of your ambition opportunity long term.
Yeah, that's fair. So anyways, my growing up, I got to that point, and I realized the effect I was having on other people at some point. I also realized the effect of the environments I was putting myself in. And to give an example of something kind of weaselly, right, just in case people don't really understand what I'm saying when I use that language. Yeah. For example, I lived with some people my sophomore year of college. I lived with 3 friends, and I don't know why this example sticks out to me. This is a really vivid memory of mine, and maybe this was actually a pivotal point for me to start thinking about stuff like this. We had a couple friends that were going across town, across the bridge in Rafford to Fairlawn, and they were like, "You want to go?" I was like, "Sure." In the back of my mind, I had this thought that I was hungry, and I wanted some food. Excuse me. And I didn't tell anybody this. I just waited until we were close to where I wanted to say, "Hey, can we stop there while we're close?" And my friends called me out. They were like, "Man, like you're kind of making us look to be assholes in some sense of you put us in a position where we look bad if we say no, right?" So it's like, oh, okay, you know, weird. I didn't know that, and there are places in my life where I picked that up.
So it was a manipulation tactic to put them in a corner of feeling bad if they had to say no to you.
It was sneaky as hell, and I didn't like it. Once I realized what I was doing, you know, I made a conscious choice to say I could do better, you know, and there's value in doing better. And you know, somebody like Jordan Peterson, you know, I look at him and say, you know, to a certain extent, he saved my life. You know, outside of everything else, my mental health struggles and everything else, you know, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for some of the lessons he taught me.
Wow.
And, you know, that in the same breath, I go, hey, but his politics, he probably should shut up a little bit. So in the same breath, you know, I recognize the value, but I am also, you know.
Hey, look, you know, you don't have to take every scripture.
No.
You know, you don't have to take every verse
Mm-hmm.
You know, you just take what's applicable to you, that encourages you, that puts you on the right path, and you can discard the rest. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think people have a hard time with that. And the reason why is it takes effort to think for yourself, and energy and time, and just the bandwidth in your head to have those conversations with yourself, or truly sit with yourself in silence, you know. And I don't mean that technically, like not speaking.
Hey, you're taking advice from a man, and the man is imperfect. Every man's imperfect, so you're gonna have to decide what's for you. Again, it's that R&D. You know, it's that rip off and duplicate. You're just gonna take what you can apply, and you can just let the rest go, man.
Yeah,
that's the way you gotta do life.
Yeah,
pretty much.
And for me, it like I said, it saved my life, and there's value to that. And I wonder, for example, I mean, the message that somebody like Jordan Peterson sends is you have something valuable to offer society, right? And to think that, for example, he's been through a hell of a life. I don't know if a lot of people know his story with having severe depression, and it would be cool to have him on, but that's probably
dreams.
Yeah, dreams. Hey, dreams are, set a vision.
Speak it into
something.
reality.
Yeah.
Start speaking on it.
But to the extent that I can speak to it, because it's not my life, but he's been through some stuff. Like his daughter had rheumatoid arthritis, if I remember right. Was teaching her how to give methotrexate injections at a really young age. And I say, like, I think it was like either 7 or 11 kind of sticks out in my head, which is insane for me. I've been on methotrexate. I've been on it for Crohn's, and it was debilitating, and I was 15, and my mom was giving me the injections, much less being 11 and having to learn how to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And for those out there that don't know what methotrexate is, it's chemotherapy. It's the main drug that they give chemo patients, and along with like radiation and everything. But yeah, I mean, so coming from his own struggles, he enacted a philosophy on his life, became useful. And I'm not the only one that says this. A lot of people, including Jordan Peterson, talks about the experiences he has in public, and he says he has a lot of people come up and say the same thing.
He's made a huge impact.
He's made a huge impact.
He's one of the examples of somebody that went out and became somebody on the internet.
Uh-huh.
He didn't have to be somebody on the internet. He could have just kept in the classroom and, professor at some university, right? So
University of Toronto.
Yeah, so he didn't have to go be the controversial figure that he is. I mean, his own government has come after him.
Yeah,
So it's like, you go and you start speaking about the things that these guys speak about that goes totally against what the real agenda is from the real power in the world.
The expediency of it.
You're gonna get backlash. You're gonna get attacked. You go become somebody in any endeavor in life. Somebody's gonna be coming for you. Somebody's gonna be not liking that you're that ambitious. They're not going to like how you said that one thing that one time.
Yeah. There's two things I could say about that. A, if you have no enemies, you're not doing it right.
Exactly.
And then number two, what was it? Say the last thing you said again.
I don't even remember.
I don't either. Oh shoot! It was something really cool too. It was you mentioned I could bring this back to something else, and if I remember, I can do this. The idea of him picking up on the internet, I think, was
being somebody on the internet.
Being somebody on the internet.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really
key to life.
Yeah, a philosophy that I kind of carry in my own life, and it seemed like he did too, which is really be prepared for the moment. So for anybody out there, just, it might seem like, there's no reason to work on yourself, but you don't know what opportunities necessarily lie around the corner that if you prepare yourself for it, some really beautiful things come out of it. I mean, I'm an example of it, and even say like this podcast, to have the things that I've had to deal with my mental health and my relationships and my my finances and everything. If I had not had that in place, when you offered this opportunity to me, I couldn't be here.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
Right. So on that note, this is a good opportunity for us to talk about just that, being ready for all the opportunities and building out all the opportunities for this and for what you got going on. And pretty much just having a behind the scenes business meeting between me and you,
Yeah.
because there's going to be a lot of things coming our way that we got to be ready for, because if we get the opportunity, it's going to slide by if we're not thinking about it, talking about it, and prepared for it. So a lot of this, all right, so let's just talk about your music thing, okay? Yeah. So your music thing, you're gonna get out here, you're gonna do this. We got to create a lot of content around what you're saying, what you're doing, the venues you're going to go to and perform. There's going to be a lot of things that we can replicate from all these people that have a lot of success in uploading their music to these platforms and getting attention.
Right.
So we got to figure out a strategy around that.
Yeah. So twofold, two things. I'd like to open up a little bit about my background in music, but also just to add to the point. So I think examples are a good way to learn about things, because I think, for example, narrative story is a really good example. That's why we like to share experiences through story. But to give another example, in my music, I didn't have it necessarily in my mind I wanted to perform yet, but when it came time, I went ahead, once I had the inkling in my mind that this was the strategy I needed to do moving forward. And I've never performed as a frontman. I've performed as a guitar player. I've played guitar for 18 years going on. So I've always been more of behind a supportive character, more so than the lead. And I also flourish in that to a certain extent. But I had to be prepared. So it wasn't time. I don't have any venues set up. I'm talking about going to open mics and things. But I went ahead and exported every one of my original songs without my vocals, so that when the time came, I'm prepared for it.
Yeah.
And that's a really small example, but
no, that's good. That is good, because like I said, you got to be able to plug in
exactly
to the sound equipment fast and get out good quality, and then be able to get your stuff out, perform, and then roll.
Yeah.
So,
and I would take that on a broader scale too. Is like, I'm obviously a musician and a producer, so that's kind of the way I think about things. So in that same realm, for the analogy, is for anybody out there listening, you don't know when it's your time to be on stage.
Yeah,
you don't know
exactly,
and you need to be prepared.
And we're looking at, let's just use the most relevant example that I can think of right now, which is Oliver Anthony. Richmond, north of Richmond, uploaded his thing to, I think he just uploaded to YouTube. Then someone ripped from YouTube and took it to TikTok, which is where it blew up.
Yeah.
And then, he's booking venues. He's making $40,000 a day from his streams. This guy just went from nothing to everything overnight. He's selling out, venues across the country. Blue Ridge Rock Festival, most people went just because of his name.
Yeah.
So it only took one. It is only going to take that one that's at the right place at the right time, saying the right message to the people that are struggling, that just hits home with your words.
I take the same approach to promo my music. So I've had multiple people that I've had conversations with, Jamal being one of them, and about how to promo. So advertise my music. And one of my strategies, I probably get a lot of flack for this, is to be on the ground. I talk to people one-on-one. It's a very low quantity, but I put myself there a lot. So it's low quantity to the extent that how much reach I have.
Right.
But it's the same thing that, like, all it takes is one person. All it takes is one person to say, I absolutely love this. And I've had a conversation with this guy, and, like, I want to share it with people. I see the message. I feel it all. And then to put them in a position, those are the fans I want, are the people that are invested and engaged with me and my music. So to open up a little bit more about that, I started playing music when I was 13. I was sick with Crohn's. My parents bought me a little 3/4 size guitar. I taught myself for a year and a half. And then a blessing kind of came my way. Shout out to Robert McCullough. He was my guitar teacher when I was about 15. And my man... So for people who don't know, when you kind of learn lessons from an instrument, they typically teach you songs and they teach you technique, right? So for a guitar, they tell you how to tremolo pick or how to do hammer-ons and pull-offs. But he didn't do this. He goes by Bobby. So Bobby didn't do this. He he gave me a low-key intro-level college course to music theory. And it set me up for life to do this. And there you go. You don't necessarily know the impact that you're going to have when you are prepared for the moment, even for somebody like to teach me how to write music. And so I knew how to write music from the age of 15. I learned a lot of music theory. Never was professionally taught outside of that. You know, I didn't go to school for music. I went to school for psychology and math. You know, I had a tremendous interest in human behavior for multiple reasons. Played with a couple cover bands in my early 20s. Played probably cover bands for about 5 years. Got sick of it.
Dude, that's awesome though that you have that in your repertoire.
Yeah.
You know? Because you see all this video content I'm sending you, like T-Pain, all this T-Pain stuff I'm sending you. Yeah. I mean, T-Pain, like I'm gonna just like I love T-Pain. Yeah. Like auto-tune, whatever, I don't care. Like the dude is talented. He's put out great songs. He's labeled a rapper, but he is a musician.
For anyone out there, just so they know, pitch correction. So Autotune is the most popular program of pitch correction that people know commonly. It's by Antares. I actually use it. Any sort of studio music that you've heard has pitch correction to it. It's just, and I use it in my own stuff. You know, I give shit.
He went on the other side of it.
He used it as a style.
Yeah.
He took a tool in the same way you could take a tool like reverb, and reverb's used in everything too, but you could take it and turn it up the entire dial, and it gives a certain feel, or delay. I mean, there's a lot of people that do that in today's music too. So for that, like, I agree with you that just because his style was to turn that autotune all the way up, everybody uses it. I make fun of people for using it, but full disclosure.
Look, Kanye did a whole album with it. Kanye, I mean, if Kanye rips it off, you know you did it right.
Oh, you mean the style?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the style is interesting. I have one song, you've heard it, Shine Real Hard. It's the opening track on the album.
Yeah.
Featuring Durainzy. Durainzy went a little hog wild with the autotune. It's not usually my style, but shout out to Durainzy. He did a good job. Yeah. I like it. It also gave a really positive spin to my very dark lyrical material. So once I got to my late 20s, this also gave me an appreciation for some of the technology nowadays, because I learned how to record on a DPO-1. It was a Tascam product it was a standalone recording system that had 8 tracks on it. That's it. And you had little knobs for EQ, and that was it. That's all. And I had a little reverb processor that gave me some reverb, and that was it. I learned how to record on that. And I did that for a long time, up until like my mid-20s, and record some really cool music, but was still learning. And then when I turned about like 26, 27, I stumbled upon FL Studio, and I still use it to this day. Basically infinite tracks. You could do so much. Plugins are just near infinite, what you can do, what kind of plugins you can get, including Autotune, and kind of fell in love with making beats. Listened to some hip hop when I was younger, classics, Eminem. There were some other people in there too. I just can't recall them. The classics, Jay-Z, Ludacris a little bit. Like, you know, who was popular in the day. I wasn't exactly unique in my music tastes at that age. I was listening to what everybody else was listening to.
Bro, I was going around throwing bows. I was from Atlanta, you know.
Oh, you're from Atlanta?
No, I was I'm throwing bows like I'm from Atlanta though. Yeah. You know, the whole Ludacris, T.I., all that, you know, when that kind of got real popular. Yeah. Jermaine Dupri, you know.
Not too familiar with them, but so I fell in love with making beats, and of course the stereotypical or the standard approach to beats is to rap, right? Like, and I had nobody to rap for me, so I took it upon myself to kind of learn a little bit and teach myself, and just literally go at it. And I've had some people that come in and out of my life, and some that are still in my life that have given me a lot of critique. I feel like I've gotten pretty good at it. I've had some people give me some really cool compliments on how I go about my lyrical style and my flow, and how I approach my sound. And I feel like I actually have a unique sound because my background is rock and blues. You know?
You do have a unique sound. Yeah, I agree with that. I think if you can translate what you're doing in the studio over to live performance, I think that'll be your next level up.
Yeah. Also, I think I'm going to do good in that area, and the reason why, I used to shout out to Overwatch players, because I used to play Overwatch a lot. the original. Overwatch 2 I played a little bit, but I digress. So on Overwatch 1, you could join these little groups. And the whole point of joining a group was to group up to play the game. But what I would do, and some other people did this too, is I would get in and I would name my group like rap. Like come in and just talk about rap or, rapper, do whatever. I used to give live performances.
Nice.
Over the mic. I would set up my scenario, and I got my headset on, and I got my lyrics in front of me because I hadn't memorized them at that point. And I had the FLP file where I could turn off my vocals, and I would play, and I would do the performance. And, this is probably a good sign, is people would hear my studio stuff, and then they would hear me do it live, and they said they liked the live better. And I think the reason why is when I perform in a studio, there's certain techniques that, like, you still have to pour a lot of energy into it, at least the style that I do. But when I do it live, there's a lot more grit to it. For whatever reason, it might be because I'm feeding off the energy of just the being in front of people. There's also this level of not hearing yourself as much. So when you're going to record, you have a monitor through the mic so you can hear yourself, and that allows for you to, in the same way that if you're putting on a live performance, you imagine you're in a stadium of 5,000 people, and the speakers are as loud as they are. They have a monitor so they can just hear themselves, right? And they can also put the music in there too. But yeah, it's the same way that I would have this monitor, but when I did it live, I had to hear myself. And a lot of people seem to like that. And it's something that's unique to my style anyways, is the grit. And that comes from rock, from rock. And I also taught myself how to scream, vocal fry, and all that stuff. So I got that in my repertoire too. And that's something I always tell people to do too, is like in any endeavor, right? Like get good at what you're doing and apply techniques, like learn how to do techniques, not necessarily apply them, but learn techniques that you don't even want to learn. Learn stuff that you just look at and you go, I'm never going to do that. Still learn it, because it's going to do two things. It's going to give you perspective on the things you do know how to do. And then two, man, if you, like I said, I learned how to vocal fry, right? I hardly ever use it in any of my music, but it taught me how to use grit more effectively. And that's what I get a lot of people saying. They like this fact that I can put this grit to my voice and rap. It's something that not a lot of people are doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
gotta have a good growl.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, basically. Yeah. So anyways, so I got this album releasing. I released an album in 2021. It was really rough. My production quality, I just didn't know what I was doing, to be fair. And I, for example, for any music techs out there, I had my limiter working way too much, which basically what it means is when the music hits a certain threshold, everything else drops, right? So when the bass would hit, my vocals would drop out just a little bit, and then it would come back in hot, and it just created a disorienting effect. But that album, some really cool ideas in it for anybody who wants to go look it up. It's a flame. My name is 3Bet. It's my stage name. That's kind of what I'm going to go by on here. But as Scott has pointed out, he's known me as Hunter for 15 years. It might take him a little bit, but so under 3Bet, 3BET on any platform. And my first album was A Flame.
Is there any songs there that you'd love that you think people should have like gravitated toward, like and give you a shot to hear?
I think the one that performed there's 4 songs that I think of. The album had 10 on it, and for different reasons. So there's one that was really popular called La Di La. Just that was the most popular one. Then I had one called You Know Who to Find, who had a feature that I absolutely love working with. Shout out to Juvie from New York. He's actually on my new album as well. We work really well together, and he brings a perspective that I don't have into the scene in which I'm talking about a topic and have tackled it every way that I know how to, given my personality and everything else I've been through. He brings in a whole new perspective on the same topic. It's amazing. I love working with him. Yeah. So he was the opening on one of these tracks, and he's so good that like he carried the song, so that one did well. And then there was one that was the darkest song maybe I've ever, close to the darkest song I've ever written. It's called Beats for Days, and my production on it was fantastic. I actually did a really good job on that one, and that one just stuck out. So if anybody wants to go listen to a song on that album, Beats for Days would be a good one.
I still think I sent you a video that said something about keep pushing it, keep promoting it, until people have heard it, it's still new, It's still new until you've given it a shot. And I think where you may have lacked in the past, maybe you're critical about, your skills and your level of quality or whatever.
Yeah,
but maybe it's a lack of promotion and getting it into people's peripheral vision so you can turn their head. So I would even almost go back to that catalog and things that you really believed in when you drop in this, throw some of the other stuff in there. So, like
Beats for Days.
Seriously, like all you need is one, brother. All you need in this endeavor, in the music endeavor, all you need is one. And then you got an opportunity. If you can get your foot in the door with the one, you have an opportunity.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I mean, I even mentioned in song number 5 on my new album, which is called Melidoso, Melidoso. Made up word, by the way, for anybody who's curious what the hell that means. I don't know. It's kind of came to me randomly. It just sounded cool.
It does sound cool.
It sounded like melody, and there's a lot of melodic stuff to this rap album I'm putting out. But the song is called All My Songs, and funny enough, I mentioned these songs, and so I kind of put the spin on it where I say, I could show you Beats for Days, right, which is the song.
So you take all of your song titles and you rap the song titles.
Yeah, I go.
That's awesome, bro. I love that.
I'm basically saying I could show you my past, right? And I go, I could show you Beats for Days, Insidious Ways, Tell You Must Be Dreaming, which all those are songs. And then I could sing Lottie Law, Give It To You Straight, and Tell You I'm Not the Same. Again, all those are titles of my old songs. And then I say something to the extent of, given all that, you shouldn't judge me by the lack of hits in my past, because my strength isn't the social crap and the Facebook ads. It's I can scribble on a pad, yell little as a rap, Yeah. So like that's obviously I think my is the hardest work that I have to be putting in currently. For sure, is the promo, the advertisements, the putting myself out there. I mean, even just sitting here and having a podcast.
And that's why we're here. That's what I'm going to bring to your table.
Yeah,
is the encouragement and execution of a promotional strategy that will help you get the attention that you're looking for and that you deserve.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I do think on this album, Melidoso, it drops on New Year's. So from the time of this recording, it'll be dropped by the time this video is out. Yeah. So for anybody looking for it, it's Melidoso 3BET on all platforms. So in this album, I have a message to send. And so to give an idea, a lot of the stuff I rapped about in the past was a bit technical. It was about rhymes. It was about flow. And I didn't have a lot to say at the time. Like, I didn't know how to say it. But once I came around to this album and working on it, probably about March of last year is when I released Curses, my second album. And I started to find a voice for the things that were deep inside of me. And I had a particularly interesting approach to writing music. In fact, I've taken a lot of heat for it, which is when I'm writing, I don't know what I'm writing yet. And in my mind, I'm just trying to make things rhyme because that's where I started. I was just like hat, cat, bat, except with more complicated words, obviously. But the point being, what I found was as I tried to do that, my subconscious filled in the space. And I realized I had a lot to say. And this album, from top to bottom, every song has a message, aside from there's one song on it that was a bit experimental, has no hook. It tells a short story, and it's got a twist at the end for anybody who wants to check it out. It's a really cool song, in my opinion. I enjoyed making it. It was a thrill. But aside from that song, every song has a message, and then the album is a message in itself. It goes from I open up the song up, and the opening line is basically I rap about what's on my mind, you see. Different thing from moment to moment, unfocused at times, but I entirely own it. And the whole point is I'm saying, like, hey, look, I'm setting up this album. This is what I'm doing. I'm rapping about what's on my mind, and I'm a little unfocused. So the beats, if you listen to them, they're a little all over the place. I got one where I got a sax player playing the saxophone. That's a cool song. You haven't heard that one yet. I got one that I got a guitar in it. I got one that just has these robotic beep sounds. I have piano, of course, and just the kind of classic hip hop stuff too. I got one that has a banjo in it. So I'm a little all over the place, and I own it. And that's something that I feel like is in the message of the song or in the album. And I've had people tell me through some of these promo conversations, they're like, from a strategic standpoint, You know, I had one guy, shout out to Lean NL Team on Discord. He was giving me some advice, and he said, as an artist, I understand where you're coming from, but he said, if I was your label, I would tell you singles. Release 3 or 4 singles over the course of a couple months, and then as a teaser to dropping the album. And I gave this a lot of thought. I had the conversation with him. He completely understood where I was coming from an artist standpoint, because he was a creative too. He's a producer. He's been a producer for a long time. And also, I'm pretty sure he makes some of his own music. I apologize, Lean. I haven't heard anything, so I can't say that for sure. But the strategy of releasing those singles, what I came to find in my head, I had a gut about it, and then I just sat on it for 2 weeks, and I was like, there's a message in this album that's too important to take away for the simple fact of strategy. And this is kind of my philosophy of life to a certain extent, but also my philosophy in my art, which is staying true to myself, right? Staying true to what's in my heart, regardless of the outcome. You know, so to me, what's more important to me for my music, and I know I can already see you wiggling in your seat. You know, if you were my manager, you'd be yelling at me so hard. So the point being, though, is I'd rather my music get out to 100 people and change some lives and make no money off of it, right? Or even 1,000 people, right? Than it go out to 5 million. I make a living off of it, and it become just put to the side, you know, go viral for a couple weeks, make $1 million, and then that's it. You know, this is kind of my vision for my art, is to leave an impact, a lasting impact. I feel like some of the stuff I do, the intent behind it was to become timeless, really take in a message that's going to be timeless, or send out a message that's going to be timeless, send out instrumental that you can just rock to. You know, in the sense, for example, one of the things I approach with my music when I make beats is if I can't listen to my own beat with no lyrics for 3.5, 4 minutes, I don't use it. You know, so the beat itself already has to be entertaining enough on its own for 4 minutes for me to continue to work on something. You know, so it's piece by piece has, you know, every layer to it. I try to, you know, Kellyn's brother, Ian, shout out to Ian Scrimger. What's his logo for his something Master of Fun for his I think so. I apologize, Ian. I wish I remembered the name. Do you remember it? Something Master of Fun.
I think it's just Master of Fun.
You think so? I thought there was a first part to it, but shout out to him. He travels the country working on escape rooms. It's a really cool job.
Nice.
It would be interesting, maybe potentially get him on here. But so he had a quote on Facebook. I don't know if it was original, and I imagine it's not, but he posted it as if it was. And it said, great art has layers. And I agree with that. You know, to me, great art is something that you can listen to for the first time, catch something about it. Maybe it's the instrumental. Maybe it's the way my voice sounds or something. And then next time you listen to it, you catch something about what I say, and you connect with that. And then you listen to it again, and you catch something else I say, and you connect with that. And then you realize, oh, shit, he's got a double entendre in here, or triple entendre. I mean, that's what's fun about rap, is you can throw all these wordplay and stuff. You know, for anybody wondering how I got into the rap game, for anybody that knows me from high school and thinking, how the hell did this guy end up a rapper? You know, the reason why is because rap gives a medium for two things. You can say things in rap you can't say in other mediums of music, right? You can't make fun of rap itself. Like, you can't make fun of rockers while rocking. It just doesn't work.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody's ever.
I don't think there's been a diss track on a country song.
No,
you know, or you know, a rock song dissing another rock band or anything like that.
I can't think of a single one. And
I love that about hip hop. You can kind of talk trash.
You can talk trash.
Yeah, I love some talking trash.
And so for me, it gave me an avenue to talk some trash about. You know, like for example, I make fun of trap music and my song "Out There." You know, and funny enough, I had a guy try to get me on a trap beat.
Hip hop is the comedy. You can put a lot of comedy in hip hop.
It's kind of comedy in the sense that like the comedians get to say anything, right?
The comedians get to say anything.
Yeah,
I mean that's the part of comedy that I love, is that you should be able. The stand-up comedian is like the version of freedom of speech that we all want.
Yeah,
we want the freedom of speech that comes with being a comedian.
Right.
You know.
So in that regard, that's how I settled into the rap game.
Yeah.
Was
Interesting. That's
I
very
got to diss some things. I also, a lot of the stuff I've been through, and I think it would be actually an interesting topic to kind of talk through some of this stuff. A lot of the stuff I went through, I had a lot to say, and so like for example, I used to be very cryptic in my writing. I used to use a lot of symbolic messaging writing that was not easy to interpret on first listen, or second or third, or fourth for that matter. But I got more explicit, not explicit in cursing, but explicit in what I had to say. So it was a little bit more clear and straightforward as I progressed in my art. I still am cryptic on some songs and kind of lay some symbolic stuff too. But at the end of the day, what I found was, so when I would write rock music, it would be very symbolic, and I didn't really have a lot of space to elaborate on it, right? You think of a rock song, you think of lyrics, you have this many. On any one of my rap songs, it's this.
Right.
So I get to be symbolic and then dive into it and explain why I use that symbology.
It's probably the most creative genre of music as far
lyrically,
as,
for sure.
Yeah, and the freedoms that it gives you to talk about certain different things.
Yeah, for sure.
In certain different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say maybe that's another reason I fell into hip hop, is because for me, as far as I can tell, I'm not a hip hop aficionado by any means, but from what I've learned from listening to hip hop,
bro.
And do you know where this is going?
No, but I'm getting ready. I'm getting ready to interject here after you finish your thought.
Yeah, go for it. So one of the reasons I fell into it is, to me, hip hop was about struggle. Yeah. And of course there's some glory in rap and stuff too, but like I feel like the true roots of hip hop are struggle. And for somebody who's been through a lot of struggle, it gave me an opportunity to voice that. And, as somebody who has a lot of mental health issues, it gave me, I mention it in a lot of my songs. I go, well, I put down the pen, right, to say, like, am I going to stop doing this? And I say no, because at the end of the day, never will I ever dispense with attention. Me fence and a circus tent, I say it in one of my songs, and the lyrics are there. But I'm basically saying this is therapy for me. So as far as, like, putting it down, because like Eminem, for example, he took a lot of heat from MGK because he has all this stuff and he's still yelling at the mic kind of thing. And it's like, for me, something that I kind of foresee for myself is I'm not going to drop it, because there are struggles in my life that are chronic. They don't go away. My mental health, my physical health, they just don't go away. And the mental health in particular, just, that's a topic in itself. I would like to talk about that at some point, but I'm going to let you interject and maybe we can bring it back to that at some point.
Dude, hip hop raised me, man. Like I was heavily influenced by the lifestyle that you would see on the music videos, and what they were talking about and the lifestyles that they were living. We all want it. We all want that. As far as like, a young impressionable kid looking up into seeing what I'd like to be involved in my life, big pimping, on the yachts and with all the pretty women and, all the money just flying over everywhere, like dream. That's the dream, so,
that's the other flip side of it.
The G-Wagons and the Bentleys and all the nice cars and these, MTV Cribs and, Pimp My Ride, all of that stuff influenced by hip hop and the influence of wanting to get that, wanting to achieve that type of success came from what I saw out of hip hop.
Yeah, so it inspired you in a different way.
With the fashion, with just the confidence, the
lifestyle,
the confidence that these men would have, and everything they were able to consume, and everything that they were able to, like they had the riches. I mean, they were the kings pretty much. Like all these guys, were able to do the things, go the places, be with the people that they wanted to be with, have all the nice food, yeah. I mean, it was the lifestyle that we wanted.
Yeah. So we kind of seem to be inspired by hip hop from the two polarized kind of positions. Really quick, what were you saying, babe?
It's 2:00.
Is that okay?
Yeah, but you said we had to be
I got to be home by 4. Yeah, so we're good. Good.
Yeah.
Keep going. All right, sweet. So yeah,
as long as you want to keep the conversation going, we'll keep going.
Yeah, we'll go until it just kind of dies off.
Yeah.
But so for example, I point out that one of the things with hip hop is struggle, and one thing that I bring to the table for the struggles I've gone through for multiple reasons, and I've already pointed out that that it's going to give me inspiration for the rest of my life, is my mental health. And I think this is a really important topic just in general, and we've talked about it to a certain degree. And we've also said, hey, this is a good topic for the podcast, so let's not dive into it too deep because we want to keep these conversations genuine and organic. So for people who
we could probably go 2 hours and have something really, really kind of mapped out, because I want to show you, like, when we have the mental health, like after we've done a couple of guests and you're going to get back in front of the camera again and we're going to talk about mental health.
We might do it right now.
Because but I want to have examples that we can put up, have her a little bit more ready to like put some things on the TV, us watch, and then us talk about that perspective that we just seen and give our perspective on the situation.
So my thoughts on that, just to be clear to the audience, we haven't talked this out. So this is, you're getting a little bit of how we approach the podcast outside of camera, but we'll put it in here. I'm thinking about maybe getting somebody from like Radford University who's like a psychology professor. Might be somebody who would be a good idea.
I'd love to challenge them.
Yeah,
I would love to challenge
to bring them in and say, look,
what are you teaching these people?
Also, like, what is your experience? Like, for example, I've been to a couple of these mental health facilities around here, and to get somebody who works in the mental health and be able to comment from experience,
because there's guys like you. And then there's everybody else, because we talked about this too. Like, you're the 1%. In my estimation, there's a very small percentage of people that are sick, and there's a lot of the majority that are overdiagnosed.
Yeah, I do think there's an overdiagnosis problem here.
So like, then this is going to help. This is really going to help me, because it's going to soften me up to, like, I understand that there's people out here that's not making excuses. Yeah. Like, I fully, genuinely care for you as a brother, and what you say, this is an example of me showing that I'm compassionate, because I could just be like, Hunter, you're full of shit. Like, no, I'm not accepting your excuses. And but I have a relationship with you. I care for you, and we're going to talk this out. I'm going to give you some encouragement. I'm not going to judge you, and I'm going to put compassion in front of everything that I feel that is my understanding and feelings about it, because I care about you. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I have a hard stance on this stuff until I see a real prime example of it from somebody I care about.
Yeah. Well, what is your hard stance on it?
My hard stance is most people just need to fucking get up and move on and stop with it, because we all struggle. We all have pain. We all deal with things, but we got to keep moving. As men, we don't have time to sit here and like not be productive. And that whole thing really stops us from being the men we need to be, So, but like I said, that's my hard stance on the excuse culture, the soft culture that we live in.
Right?
Yeah, that's the hot take. Yeah. But my relationship with you has me pausing that hard stance. Yeah. Because I do know that I see you struggle physically. I've seen, the failed relationship thing and the father thing and all of that does bring trauma in our life.
Yeah.
But I do feel like humans are resilient, and that we heal, and that we move forward in our lives. And I want that for you. I want you to start to believe in some capacity that eventually, like, you're coming off of a lot of things that you could just hold on to. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're coming off of a lot of security that has been a blanket in your life for a long time, and I commend you for that. I respect the hell out of you for that, and I know that's a personal thing. We'll have to talk about. Maybe you get an opportunity to talk about that. I want you to let the bag out if you want to, but just so the viewers won't know what we're talking about. But what you're about to do, bro, I am so proud of you for that,
I
and
appreciate that.
and the courage it's taken.
Yeah.
Because that's what being a man is about to me. Is
Courage.
Is exactly that. Is like getting up no matter what your circumstances are and producing what you want.
So courage is a fascinating topic. I do want to bring this back to mental health because I think, you're right. We probably could take 2 hours, but for whatever this podcast is going to bring in the future, I think this is a good jumping off point, right? Because it also really displays who I am. So for any listeners out there, once we get to a point where we're discussing other issues, we could always reference this first podcast. Like, hey, look, I've been through this shit. I understand where it's coming from. I've lived it. I've had the experiences. And
if I can overcome it, you can overcome it.
Yeah. So with courage, I think courage is an interesting topic because I think what a lot of people think courage means is not being afraid, right? But courage and bravery, I think, is more peculiar than that. And
it's just getting past the fear of it all.
It's getting past the fear. So for a lot of people, they think, okay, well, for me to be a man, I don't need to be afraid. And it's like, well, actually, it's the opposite. There are things that are in life that are extremely scary. And as Jordan Peterson points out, to come full circle with that a little bit, when you approach something like trauma, he points out that what the research suggests is that you don't get less afraid. You become more brave. So to me, that's courage in a nutshell, which is there are going to be things in life that you approach that are going to be scary. And the bravery is not in getting rid of the fear. It's in, despite of the fear, you act. Yep. It's the action that's courage. It's not the feeling inside. The feeling inside is fear.
I think we need fear. I think we need fear.
Well, it has value for sure. It takes us away from things that are harmful. It also is energizing.
Yeah.
If you treat it right, I mean, like right before we got on this podcast, I was excited, and for me to kind of settle into that is to have some courage, right? Because this is a bit like getting on stage. I mean, we're on camera. We're potentially in front of thousands of people. Yeah. But to have that courage is a huge facet. And I agree. To me, it is a male represented symbol. I think the traditional male and female role models for parents is females are more nurturing and males are more encouraging, right? The female says, I want to make you safe. And the dads just don't tell your mother, right? So it's like, I want you to go out there. I want you to explore. And I mean, those are stereotypical roles. I don't think they're set in stone. I think, for example, me and my wife kind of flip a little bit on that in a lot of regards. I seem to have more of a feminine approach to a lot of things, which is funny because I'm very comfortable in my masculinity, which of course would be kind of, a lot of people have that stereotype too, that, to be able to wear a pink shirt, it makes you more of a man. I mean, that was like 20 years ago when people used to say that shit, but yeah, so I think courage is a fascinating topic. I mean, do you have any words on it outside of that to add?
I mean, nothing to add really, other than when it comes up, I'll like, yeah. I mean, this is how you should approach this, in my opinion. Like, I'll definitely be able to put perspective on, hey, let's go. Like, let's get to work. Yeah. There's nothing to fear. Yeah, we bombed last night. When's the next one? Yeah.
Well, that's the, you said it yourself. You said what I bring to you personally, right, to me, is encouragement.
Yeah.
It's like, encourage, like literally instill courage in you to keep going. And that's something, to be fair, you're offering that to me in my personal life and my business life. And it's like, that's something I've lacked. I lacked a male role model.
Bro, when you told me you have a lot of complexes in your life, I feel like too, that need to come out.
Like cognitive or
no, like you just how you felt about your given name. You were telling me the insecurities that you have, and I'm gonna just get those right out of you. That's my goal, is to make you so give you some of my confidence in things, and then maybe you give me some of your awareness. Yeah. Because I just bulldoze through with my confidence and you sometimes maybe your awareness stops you. Something like, kind of.
I could say that.
Is that fair?
Yeah, because I mean, in the same way that so sensitivity, right? I'm a sensitive guy, and a lot of people think that means I'm emotional, and yes, I'm emotional, but sensitivity is more broad. So to me, sensitivity, and the way I use it in language, is how much stimuli affects you. you know, whether it's emotionally, whether it's physiologically or whatever, or cognitively, however you want to think about it. But I'm a sensitive guy. So, and for example, one of the most sensitive organs in the human body is the eye, right? So you take something like that and you say, well, okay, I'm an eye, right? I'm really sensitive. I can see things. And you take something like, you know, not having an eye and being kind of dulled to that. You approach somebody with a bright light, I might shy away from it. Whereas if you can't detect light, you just push right through. You know what I mean? So in that sense, it's like, yeah, I do think that's kind of what I bring to the table to a certain extent, is this sensitivity to everything.
Yeah.
You know, this, for anybody who doesn't understand it, when you're sensitive like that, it's broad scale. You know, that's why a lot of people think sensitive means emotions. And it does to a certain degree, because if you're sensitive in one area, you're going to be sensitive with emotion too. Any thoughts on that?
I feel like it's a perfect combination. I feel like
yeah, we do complement each other.
We do
in a lot
very
of ways.
much so. Yes.
Yeah.
So I just just start to try to wrap it up here.
You sure?
Yeah, I mean, as good. That's a good little stopping point. I think that I'm super excited for our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is going to be a tremendous thing for us both. If we stay at it long enough, there's no way we can lose. I just think there's a lot of great things in front of us. I think that we're going to encourage and help each other be aware of life as it continues to progress with each other. I think that I don't know, man. I feel like there's a lot of different things we're not even thinking about. I think that something's just going to hit us at some point. Not podcasts, not music, not poker. Just something else is out there. Something else is out there too. So
Might be comedy.
Not even just like whatever it is, but just like, something special is coming from this. And man, I just I appreciate you. I appreciate you letting us have his time. I think
for anybody out there, whenever I'm on this side of the camera, it means my wife is working behind the production. So definitely appreciate her. So I can share some of my stories, some of my experience, and some of my perspective. So, and I appreciate you, man. We both have brought something to this table that I don't think either one of us could do it without the other.
We have so much work to do. We have so much work to do. I've got over 25 people that are partnered with me right now in business. There's so many promos to cut. There's so many opportunities to influence and help build this community. Everything, all this foundation work that I've laid with me and you, we can start putting the pillars together.
Let's do it.
I think we can. And I just think it's going to be a great thing.
It's going to be a blast
for the community and for us to be able to do the things that we're trying to do. So man, I am like super pumped about it.
Cheers to that.
For those who want glory, just know, no matter what you've been through, it's out there for grabs. Take his home.
Ancora più forte sono 10, 100, 1000 volte. Ancora più forte sono 10, 100, 1000 volte. Ancora più forte sono 10, 100, 1000 volte. Ancora più forte sono.
I can shut it off and I can be a human one time, because if I can do it for me, I can replicate it for others.